Finnish poetry generation using fine-tuned mBART. And it will be presented by Sardana Ivanova. So please go ahead.
Hi everyone. Oh, hi.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm fine, how are you?
Yeah, great. Nice to see you here live in Oslo. It's so great conference.
Yeah, finally alive after all that long pandemic.
Yeah, so what are you presenting at the conference?
I present today Finnish poetry generation using fine-tuned mBART.
Oh, that's interesting. So do you actually have some poetry here in your notebook that you can maybe show us?
Yeah, sure. So our model generated this poem in Finnish, and then we manually translated it to English so people could understand it. Like people who doesn't know Finnish, also people who don't know Finnish will also understand it. And it goes something like this. Oh, American, the misfortune on your shoulders and death on your hopes, on your steps. The singer is themselves. They can sing everything, and everything is fine, and everything is fine. And children walk with joy, and merry anthem play. And when I looked behind the forest, and right there I found the seed that does not exist anymore, the joy that does not exist anymore.
Oh, that's beautiful. So now so the Finnish is now generated by the system.
Yes, Finnish is generated by the system.
Great. So why do you want to make AI to generate poems?
Well, because creativity is considered to be a truly intelligent behavior, and thus to create a truly intelligent AI, we should make an AI creative. And besides that, this kind of system could help poets in writing their poems, and also it would help in producing resources for less resource languages, like Finnish, for example.
Yeah, fascinating. So, what is the framework that you are using here to generate Finnish poetry?
So yeah, we used mBART, which is a transformer-based sequence-to-sequence model. It's the noisy auto-encoder.
And this small m refers to multiple languages?
Yeah, it means that it supports multiple languages.
Oh. So can you tell more about how do you use mBART to generate poetry?
So yeah, system takes input from user of keywords. For example, in the case of the poem, it was Amerikkalainen and onnettomuus, which means American and misfortune. Then the input is sent to our first model, which generates first line of the poem, which is Oi Amerikkalainen, onnettomuus, sun hattoillas. My Finnish is not that good. Yeah, and then that line is fed onto our second model, which takes a line and generates the next line. And then it takes that line and generates the next line. And then that takes the line and generates the next line, and so on.
Yeah, actually, I'm interested, when does it stop generating the lines? What is there?
Yeah, so actually, our system has two modes of generation. One is computer human co-creativity, is when model suggests some lines, and user can choose lines they like the most, and then choose between candidates to the next line, so they create together with the AI a poem. Or the second mode is when models create a poem itself, so it's totally AI-based poems, and all the examples in this presentation today are AI-generated, just without human touch. Yeah. And the stop is coming then when there is a full stop if the sentence ends with a dot in the end, and it's more than threshold amount of lines, yeah, which the user can define here I guess it was like 5 or 7. So if it's more than 7 lines or 5 lines and there is a dot in the end, then the generation stops.
Yeah, interesting. Well, can you describe more the datasets that you used?
Yeah, sure. So for training, we use 175,000 Finnish poems, lines from Finnish poems, and for validation, we use 43,000 lines. Yeah, and those lines were collected from poems from Gutenberg project and Wikisource, which are open poems. So most of the poems are poems which are copyright expired. So they're quite old poems. So our system generates quite old style Finnish poems. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine that it's very difficult to evaluate this kind of creativity when the poems are good. So how do you evaluate this system?
Yeah, that is a very tricky question. So to do that, we showed our models to people from Science Museum in Helsinki and also poetry publishing house workers. And we demoed our system. So they provided their keywords and they co-created poems with the system. And they enjoyed the system. They agreed that it produces novel and valuable artifacts, which means that it's creative.
Yeah, interesting. Like I can imagine that there is a lot of work to do. So what are your future plans?
Yeah, so for future we would like to try to make the second model take all the previous lines to generate the next line. Now it works so just it takes one line and generate next line, and then take the line and generate the next. So we want to try to take all the previous and generate the next. And besides that, of course, our system needs evaluation. We would like to find some annotators so they could make a human evaluation of poems, which is very difficult and subjective thing. So we need to do that. And we would like to add also other languages. And as extra, we already started to work on future work, and we have a Swedish model. And so here we have a poem in Swedish and also manually translated to English, so people who don't speak Swedish can enjoy the poem as well.
No, actually we didn't have, it's not manually translated.
How is it translated?
Yeah, I used a lot of Google Translator there.
No, it's not our model translated. We just translated it with help of other systems, but it's kind of not what system produces. That's what I meant. So I guess, thank you.
So thanks a lot for a really creative presentation. I really enjoyed that. Are there questions from the audience? Yeah, one all the way in the back. Okay.
Maybe we start from there.
Thank you so much. It was a very nice and creative presentation, definitely. But why you didn't use the English language for training?
So the motivation of this work was the Science Museum in Helsinki want to make an exhibit which will like a user will go, which are primarily not users, I mean the visitors to museum goes there and they try to create, to tackle the AI themselves. And because it's in Finland, so they want that there is Finnish language and also Swedish, because Swedish is one of official languages in Finland. So they need models both in Finnish and Swedish. And also we have English model too. But I think because there was a lot of data for English, and it wasn't that challenging as Finnish, which has a lot less data. So and so we wanted to present our work is specifically for Finnish and Swedish. Thank you.
There was a question in the back.
Yeah, so I promised him that I have to keep the question short, otherwise next time we're gonna use your model to generate questions. So the thing is, can you tell me about how do you train the model to generate that style? Because I'm thinking in my mind, if you have that specific author, then you put it in, then the style of that author will be also be shown in the generated text. Is that also the case? And how about later, for example, let's say I want Mark Twain and then Nicholas Sparks mixed it together. Could it be the case that we have two styles in the generation?
Yeah, so I think because I don't know if there is such amount of data from one poet, but I don't know about Finnish. Maybe Russian poets have such huge books with a lot of Russian poems, but I'm not sure about Finnish. So our data was collected from many different authors. So the style is kind of combined all time poets style thingy. And what was the second question?
Yeah,
sorry.
We have two different, let's say, author styles. Like one romantic from Nicholas Sparks, and then one tried a little bit like Mark Twain, for example.
Yeah, I think it's possible, but it will require a lot of data of similar style. So yeah, it might be difficult, but it's definitely very interesting.
Okay, thank you for answering the presentation. I wanted to ask you, have you ever considered actually collaboration with poets, like to make this AI collaborative with those who are writing poets, so it's not a standalone tool, but rather something that can be used for helping and collaborating with human rather than replacing. So what's your thoughts about it?
Yeah, so actually Walter here, he's a poet, so...
No, not that.
Well, yeah, but he writes poems. Yeah. And besides Walter, yeah, we have people from poetry publishing house, which is called Poesia. Yeah, it's Finnish publishing house, which they publish modern poetry. And we agreed with them that they will talk to the poets who published through them, that to use their poems, data as a data. So we could have like more modern style poems, and also would be nice to have feedback from those poets. So we are looking forward to work with poets, to like ask for their opinion if it could be useful.
Maybe the last question: why did you use mBART especially for sequence-to-sequence generation? Why not, for example, GB3 or some other models?
I think it's what first came up to our mind, so we started to experimenting with that. But of course, it would be nice to try other models too and kind of compare and choose kind of the best. Yeah.
A short question. Can you just say how do you handle the M in mBART? How does it handle multiple languages?
How does it handle?
The little M in the mBART, you said it handles multiple languages. Can you just shortly speak to that?
Yeah, so it's a multilingual model, so it has some amount of languages it supports, so it was trained on a lot of languages. So it's also kind of good for Finnish language, and then we fine-tuned it on a lot of, well, not that much, but on the Finnish poetry, so it started to generate, because it's already know how Finnish looks like, kind of, it's like, yeah, it started to generate poems. So, and besides Finnish, it has other languages too. Swedish is also there, and other languages.
Hi, thanks for your nice presentation. My question is, the poem inherently have type of music inside. You know, when you, for example, read a poem, depend on the style. Have you ever thought about the music that could type of poem have inside, or put a music on, or make a poem based on the music, or make music based on the poem? It could be very interesting if you, I don't know, have you worked on it or not?
Yeah, thank you. It definitely sounds very interesting. So I think there are research about how to make specifically lyrics for music and stuff like that. But now, because the Lost Museum has specifically some like keywords and make poem out of them, so we started working only on that, making just text. But definitely it would be interesting to tackle that somehow, making also maybe songs out of that. Yeah, that's a very good idea. Thank you.
Okay, I think we need to end there, but thanks again for a great talk.